Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
How is the tragic story of a young woman in Georgia who died after taking abortion pills being exploited for political gain?
A story has come out recently from Georgia. It's a tragic story. It involves the loss of life. A young woman that had went to the emergency room for treatment. And what we know is that she went for treatment for whatever reason, we do not know, was not given treatment, and she passed away. This was from, I believe, roughly 18 months ago. It's from last year. And what we do know is we do know that she had taken abortion pills because she wanted to terminate a pregnancy. And tragically, she passed. And from all reports and everything, it's from the complications of taking those pills and from the loss of blood. And this story, unfortunately, has turned into a political story. The vice president has made comments, has tweeted out because of, as they refer to it, the Trump abortion ban. This young lady's life was lost tragically, and it is tragic. We don't want to see the loss of life in any scenario or situation. But what leaves me scratching my head is the media, nor the vice president, are connecting the dots in the understanding that this started. No one's saying, well, why did the abortion pill she took cause her to have these problems? What was the medical emergency that was needed? They're instead blaming a ban that is in place that, I'm using air quotes on radio and video, because we know nowhere in the United States of America is, one, life-saving care to be denied in any scenario or situation. And two, if the life of the mother is in danger, abortion is always permitted under the law to save the life of the mother. So
in all 50 states.
In all 50 states, everywhere in the country. So when we read the story and we read the remarks of the vice president, I don't get the urge often to throw things at the TV, but I just felt like this young lady's life was being politicized and we're not looking at the big picture here. And it's just been a name-calling episode. That's frustrating to me as a citizen. It's also frustrating to me as a father, because this happened in my situation when we saw the vice president's remarks when my daughter was in the room with me. And now we answer questions and we have conversations about it. I feel like those conversations are happening at a younger and younger age with kids nowadays, and political commercials seem to be the reason for it.
We've got the article, the ABC News piece pulled up here. One of the sentences in this piece that jumped out to me was this one. It says, the suburban Atlanta hospital that reportedly delayed her treatment has not been cited by the federal government for failing to provide stabilizing treatment to a pregnant patient anytime within the last 2 years, an AP review of federal documents found. So my question is, this is clearly a failure by this hospital. Why have they not been cited? Kamala Harris is the vice president currently.
She's a prosecutor.
She clearly knows about this story. She's talking about it. Why have no charges been brought against anybody? Now, I don't know.
Where is the Justice Department?
Yeah. This something heinous occurred.
The Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act of 1986 requires that stabilization must be provided to anyone who enters an emergency room in the United States if that hospital takes Medicare treatment. So now it is on the rarest, infinitesimally small possibility that she went to the wrong hospital that doesn't do Medicare, so they have the ability to return to not take a patient. That is nowhere in the story has that been reported. So we have to presume that since that would be like 99.9999% not possible, that's not the case. In such instance, where is the Justice Department right now on this hospital? And where is Prosecutor Kamala Harris Why is she not at the Justice Department, literally driving people to Georgia to prosecute this hospital?
It seems that she's more interested in making this a political moment. And listen, people from both sides of the aisle turn tragedies into political opportunities. But that's what it seems like is happening in this case, which is tragic.
Let's ask all of the leadership then of the Republican House and Senate, why have they not immediately called upon the Justice Department to respond to this and to investigate and to prosecute this hospital?
At least get more facts, at least, at the very least.
And can we call up the pharmaceutical company that distributes the abortion pill and ask them a few questions as well?
Now, before we get there, we've got so many facts on the table that we've got to talk about. I think there is, as big as this story is, and it is a big story, there is another piece of the puzzle. And that piece of the puzzle is the facts. The facts. What is actually going on? You just talked about the abortion company. There's a whole bunch of facts in regards to that company. I think we put those up on our website, See the Language, on Danco Industries, the company that actually is responsible for bringing that product into America and distributing that product to abortion clinics. Then there's an entire discussion about how these particular drugs work. It's a two-step drug process, and what level of pregnancy it applies to and what it doesn't. It also then comes to the fact that 60% of all abortions now that are being done, roughly 60%, are what is called chemical abortions using these two pills. But that means that there are some people inevitably who are pushing the limits on what the pills can do. In addition to that, no two people respond the same to any medication necessarily will do so, let alone one that is so intimately involved in the reproductive processes in regarding every single woman. So your point of why isn't somebody talking about the pills? What happened regarding the pills? What lesson must be learned before someone else places themselves in danger? None of those questions are being asked. All that's being asked is, this is a result of Trump abortion bans. Okay. Not apologist for Donald Trump. Let's ask, are those words truthful? Donald Trump is not responsible for a single abortion ban. And if a person disagrees with that, they're only exhibiting either they don't know the facts or they're blinded by some other problem, that they can't see reality. Donald Trump appointed Supreme Court justices who returned this question to the states. The states are choosing to do what they want to do with this issue. There are more abortions today being performed in America than there were during Roe versus Wade.
Do you want to know who and what is going to be on your ballot this November? Check out ivoters.com and enter your address and zip code. No name, no phone number, and no email address required. Find out who all the candidates are, who's endorsing them, and who's funding them. We're not bound to any political parties, candidates, or campaigns at iVoters, and we won't tell you who to vote for. You're smart enough to figure that out for yourself. What we will do is give you all the facts and none of the fanfare. Did we mention it's free? Free minds, free speech, free agents. iVoters.com, a public service of the American Policy Roundtable.
And again, to get to more political arguments, it's always interesting to me. It always seems like whether it's Tim Walz or Kamala Harris saying Donald Trump handpicked 3 Supreme Court justices. And I'm always like, what is every other president in the history of the United States?
Washington started that tradition in 1787.
There's a reason to still have phone books to open up and just go, you should sit on the court. Like, I'm like, so what are we saying here? He handpicked 3.
Do you know what president actually picked the most justices? It's a trick question. It was Washington.
Yeah.
He picked them all.
and how many did we start with in the beginning?
6.
That always baffles me to think we would have been in a political climate where you would think, well, we wouldn't think of the 3-3 tie. You would think maybe 5-1, 4-2, but the 3-3 tie, you would never have to a position.
An even number.
Yes.
Yeah, because
they had 6.
Exactly. So what the problem here is an issue of, and there's a very serious issue.
It's horrific. The story's horrific.
You can't put an issue of more importance. This issue should be the number one issue that's being discussed across the country. This should be a determining question in regards to every political race in the country. This is a big deal.
And
is there any room for lying about it?
It's a very big deal. And I want to know, when the vice president says, this young lady should be alive, and she would be if it wasn't for the Donald Trump abortion ban, how would that make it any different? She took the abortion pills. How would that make it? Would the doctor have then said, oh, you know what? Donald Trump didn't appoint 3 justices, so now we can treat you. That doesn't match up with law.
Well, let me take the other side for 1 second here. Is the argument that in the fog of war, so to speak, this was right after Roe fell, and people maybe didn't know what they could and couldn't do, and they got caught in the crossfire, so to speak? Is that what's happening?
EMTLA, emergency medical, EMTLA, passed in 1986. Yep. Any hospital that would say they don't know that they are required to give stabilizing, life-saving care to anyone who walks in their door is probably looking at being prosecuted. That is illegal. And that is criminal activity. So ignorance of the law is no excuse. This doesn't even have anything to do with abortion. This has everything to do with a person who is requiring care under that law. So if someone said in the fog of war, does this cancel out this act? That's one phone call.
Right.
That's one phone call.
Well, and it would also be something that somebody, let's say they thought it did. Mm-hmm. Let's say they thought that this new ruling did cancel out that law. You should be willing to lose your job for that. You should be willing to save the woman's life and lose your medical license.
Let's dig down a little bit more in that. That doesn't quite add up from him. I mean, I can hear the docs in the room flipping out on this one right now, saying, whoa. First off, you guys can't practice medicine on the air. And they're right. There are so many different circumstances that's involved. We're looking at the broadest possible of this to try to be respectful. The fact that she is in the situation, regardless of what did they do? Did they give her? Did they take a questionnaire and say, when was your last period? And did they get into all these specifics and say, okay, well, we can't treat you because? Did that happen? All right, we can't stabilize you because. In other words, nothing of this makes any sense. This is a gargantuan mess up. And then to elevate that to the level of a presidential campaign and tell a series of half-truths all throughout the process to exploit a situation and lay it on a political opponent. I don't care what the opponent's name is. That's not fixing anything.
It isn't, but we're in a culture of 30-second clips, Instagram reels, and playing on people's emotions at every opportunity. I can't imagine the World War II generation having the reaction on everything fire. You know what I mean? They sat down, processed, thought about it. They didn't just react.
This same scenario could just have easily have happened under Roe.
Yes.
In fact, it's more likely to have happened under Roe. All right. So here's the situation. What Donald Trump did or didn't do in regards to Supreme Court justice has nothing to do with this. This has to do with a hospital violating the law and not doing their job because abortion pills were legal throughout all 9. No, they've never been technically legal. This is why I almost made a big mistake. Abortion has been legal throughout all 9 months of pregnancy under Roe. But the abortion pills, and this is another bigger problem we have. How do you enforce the effectiveness of distribution on abortion pills? Because they have a limitation. This is an FDA matter now.
Yeah.
All right. They have a limitation of effectiveness before they actually can they're not effective and they can put someone at danger. So, and we don't know what time it was that she took the pills. We don't know any of those questions.
We don't have any of the data. And that is some of the things that you hear women talk about around the country is, do they have an understanding of what those pills actually do? The process, we know it's a 2-step process in many situations and times of taking pills. And it's going to cause a medical reaction and call for that.
Now, you know what Kamala Harris's allies would say about this? You're objectifying this woman. How dare you?
I would say you're objectifying this woman. How dare you? But anyways, the one thing that I wanted to mention was Abby Johnson talks about this in her book and the film Unplanned.
Yeah.
She goes into harrowing detail about what it feels like to take these pills. That's one of the hardest scenes in the film to watch, is when the character portraying Abby Johnson is going through a reaction to taking one of these abortion pills. And it's brutal to watch. And you can't come away from that film thinking, that's a good product. More women should have access to that product.
Now, to be fair, the actual death rate of using these pills is almost non-existent. It is not a lethal treatment if it's conducted properly and done the right way. This complication is...
It's not lethal for someone.
Well, you know what? Thank you.
Yep.
The correction is rightly taken. It is not lethal to the woman taking the pills.
Right. And I know that's what you mean.
It is lethal in every case for the child that is developing within her womb.
And it's specifically designed to be so.
And that's right. That's what it is. And you're right. You got it. But it is not... There's not a practicing reality, a reporting reality that this sort of experience is happening everywhere. We're not trying to argue our way up a lawsuit with any of the companies that make this stuff or the way that it's distributed. Those are other questions. This particular instance, blaming this woman's death on abortion bans, that's just not true. I mean, I called it a lie earlier. What else can I say?
It's not true. I also think it highlights the fact of how there is a divide in media from a partisan perspective. 25 years ago, someone would have fact-checked this and dove in deeper and said, wait a minute here, this isn't adding up. You can't say that. But we haven't seen that as of yet.
40 pages of research that we spent the last year on trying to fact-check the entire conversation of abortion in America. And everyone who picks up this fact book is stunned by what they thought they knew that they didn't know, including us. In doing the research.
And you could give this book to your pastor. You could give this to someone in your family, your friends, your neighbors that maybe are pro-abortion even. This is literally a book of facts.
This is not an advocacy piece. What this book is using just sources that are either government sources or pro-abortion sources, taking their facts as truthful and then playing out those facts in the reality of public policy and law. This is what they say. This is what we know to be true. Here's what we've got. And it's staggering. And this situation, and I will tell you, I'm very surprised that any presidential campaign would let a situation that's such thin ice as this one become such an accelerated commentary by a candidate. That's just plain risky. Do they actually think no one will call this to account? Maybe the most important thing anybody can do is to take this particular episode of 1850 and send it across every wire that's there and look it up. Look up the sites and the sources we're talking about. Look up the laws. And then ask the question, why are neither the Republican leaderships of the House or the Biden administration, including Vice President Harris, demanding the Justice Department be on the front doorstep of that hospital in Atlanta today?
How did that happen? How did that happen? It wasn't because of an abortion ban.
No.
And let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.